the pagers, then the walkie-talkies. What next? A lot of questions are being asked as to how the Hezbollah is actually going to respond to this entire crisis and turmoil that it's facing today. Now let's break it down for you. Does Hezbollah have the wherewithal? The questions that most of them should be asking is, does Hezbollah have the communications link intact? Absolutely not. For the time being, the communication links of the Hezbollah stands decimated. They will have to look at how they're going to communicate yet again. Are they going to go back to the old days where they did not use technology at all? Even if they were to do that, they will have to require some recovery time. And that's why they will take some time, although they are going to retaliate, they are going to respond, there could be escalation, but for now, there is time because they will have to recover from this major loss, this major attack, and then consider retaliation or an action against Israel. This also has salvaged Netanyahu's image to a certain extent, given the massive intelligence failure that Israel was faced with on the 7th of October. Having said that, one will have to wait and see how this really pans out. Let's take a look.
On September 17th, the tranquility of daily life in Lebanon was shattered when hundreds of pagers used by Hezbollah members exploded almost simultaneously across the country. These blasts resulted in at least 12 fatalities, including 2 children, and sent nearly 3,000 people to hospitals with injuries ranging from severe burns to shrapnel wounds. The chaos unfolded primarily in the southern region and the suburbs of Beirut, where families gathered, unknowingly caught in the deadly aftermath. Hezbollah has vehemently blamed these explosions on Israel, asserting that it was a calculated attack aimed at destabilizing their communication.
I think that what has happened is particularly serious, not only because of the number of victims that it caused, but because of the indications that exist that this was triggered, I would say, in advance of the normal way to trigger these things, because there was a risk of this being discovered. Because obviously the logic of making all these devices explode is to do it as a preemptive strike before a major military operation. So, as important as the event in itself is the indication that this event confirms that there is a serious risk of a dramatic escalation in Lebanon, and everything must be done to avoid that escalation.
Just one day later, the situation took another tragic turn as walkie-talkies purchased by Hezbollah exploded, claiming 14 more lives and injuring over 450 individuals. The blasts occurred during a funeral procession for the victims of the previous day's explosions, intensifying the sense of grief and loss in the community. Amidst this turmoil, the strain on medical professionals has been overwhelming. Lebanese eye surgeon and parliament member Elias Reid has been working tirelessly in the operating rooms, treating the flood of injured victims.
تنحط بنفس الموقف. نفس المشهد من 4 سنين وكنا بنفس المسؤولية. بنتمنى تبقى هيدي النهاية. كنت عم بشوف بكل مريض جزء من لبنان. كل مريض كنت عم بحاول.
Security experts suggest that the explosions were not mere accidents but part of a calculated move by Israel, employing sophisticated tactics reminiscent of previous operations against Hezbollah. Reports indicate that Israeli intelligence, particularly Mossad, may have planted explosives in the devices before they reached Hezbollah, raising serious questions about the nature of these attacks.
אני כבר אמרתי, אנחנו נחזיר את תושבי הצפון בבטחה לבתיהם, וכך בדיוק נעשה.
This is what Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about the attacks. Meanwhile, this is what Antony Blinken had to say.
So, with regard to Lebanon, the United States did not know about, nor was it involved in these incidents, and we're still gathering the information and gathering the facts. Broadly speaking, we've been very clear, and we remain very clear, about the importance of all parties avoiding any steps that could further escalate the conflict that we're trying to resolve in Gaza, to see it spread to other fronts. It's clearly not in the interest of anyone involved to see that happen. And that's why, again, it's imperative that all parties refrain from any actions that could escalate the conflict.
As the dust settles, the prospect of further conflict looms ominously. Hezbollah's retaliation appears imminent, and Israel's military readiness remains heightened. With civilian lives hanging in the balance, the international community must take heed and intervene to prevent a larger crisis.
Zooming out on the timing of this attack, why do you think the Israelis have been doing what they're doing? Now, we're given to understand that Israel indeed is on a timer. Why? Because they're looking at a window of from now till the 5th of November when the US elections are held, because if Trump comes to power, we are looking at a lot of liberties for Israel to do what they want to. But should Kamala Harris win these elections, then Israel's hands could be tied. It's the latter that Israel really fears.